Welcome to Holistic Kid Show. My name is Zane.
My name's Abdullah.
And my name's Imad.
Welcome to Holistic Kid. No. So today we have an awesome guest, Mrs. Wendy Warner, and so there's a lot of there's a very scary word going on, that there's the C word, and it's not. There's a very scary C COVID word that scares adults and children to death. Which we're not supposed to. We're not supposed, not the C COVID word, the C cancer word. Cancer is scary, right?
Yeah.
Why?
Because really that is scary. We are all in that age range. Range. Oh no, I don't want cancer. I like my body.
Well, guess what? You're in luck today because we are so honored.
We are so honored
to have an expert in the house to help us with improving our immune system that we have heard a lot about lately, and talking all about cancer. Dr. Wendy Warner. So after 14 years of conventional OBGYN practice, Dr. Warner established Medicine in Balance, a collaborative holistic medical practice in suburban Philadelphia. There she focuses on functional integrative approach to health and healing, working alongside practitioners from many different backgrounds and offering a wide variety of therapeutic options. She is board certified in gynecology and holistic integrative medicine, is a certified functional medicine practitioner and a herbalist. She is a nationalized recognized speaker and educator, including teaching for the Institute of Functional Medicine. She is a past president of the American Board of Integrative Holistic Medicine, and she even authored a chapter in the upcoming 5th edition of Rakel's Integrative Medicine textbook, and is the co-author of Boosting Your Immune System for Dummies. She currently serves on the scientific advisory board for Gaia Herbs. So thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Warner. We are so honored.
Thank you. It's great fun to be here. It really is.
Wow, we would love to know how you went from a woman's doctor to international holistic functional medicine practitioner.
Well, I kind of went into medicine knowing I wanted to take care of women, and it was great. I'm really glad I did my conventional practice for as long as I did. But unfortunately, this weird thing happens in medical school, and I still remember when this happened. We learn about anatomy, and we learn about how things are supposed to work, and then we learn about pathophysiology, which is what happens when they don't work right. And that was cool because I learned all the science of what goes wrong. And then they teach us about like drugs and how they work and how they're supposed to fix things. And I remember at the time thinking, well, wait a minute, this drug is doing this, and that doesn't have anything to do with what's going wrong in the situation. So even then I kind of thought, well, how we treat people kind of doesn't make a lot of sense. But you know how it is when you're in school and you have to take a test and it's just about getting the right answer sometimes. So I just went ahead and put down what they said and didn't ask any more questions. So it kind of was always in the back of my mind, you know, maybe what we're doing doesn't always make sense. And when I got out into practice, a lot of the stuff that I was taught to do in just regular old women's healthcare worked okay, but not that great. And so finally I started saying, well, maybe the drugs aren't the best thing because they kind of work not that well and they have all these side effects. And I'm a gardener, so I already really liked plants. And I knew that there were people out there who used plants as medicine, they're herbalists. And so I decided to learn that. And there was actually my own little medical thing that was going on that I used some plants for because I was told to take a drug every day, which didn't really make a lot of sense. And the plants work great. Now, this was a long time ago when not very many people were like your mom and I doing this kind of medicine. And so I kind of kept my mouth shut. And then gradually over time, I finally said, okay, forget it. I just have to tell people about it. So I started doing more and more herbal medicine and energy work and that kind of thing in my practice. And the next thing I know, it kind of didn't feel like a good fit being in that practice anymore. So I opened up the practice that I'm in now. And when you do functional medicine, even if you're a gynecologist, so like for 14 or 15 years, I had only had women patients. There were so many people that were interested that I actually started seeing men and some kids, not young kids, but older kids. And it sort of just kept growing, and you just sort of, because it works. And then functional medicine became more and more well-known, and integrative medicine became well-known. And so I ended up teaching, and I'm really glad that I switched over. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yes.
So that is amazing.
Amazing.
That is amazing. So inspirational. We have heard a lot about the immune system this year. What is the immune system exactly?
You know, actually, yeah, I'm glad you guys decided to do this topic because you're right. Everybody has heard about the immune system for like a year and a half now. The immune system is the part of our body that runs, it's lots of different kinds of cells. And they all have different jobs, but what their jobs are to run around and fight off things that don't belong there, like bacteria, viruses. We've talked a lot about viruses this past year. And they also, there's a part of your immune system that runs around and does cleanup because, you know, just normal day-to-day living will damage some cells and cause them to look funny. And so the immune system, part of the immune system's job is to run around and go, you don't belong here. So they take the cells and dispose of them. So basically the immune system is both your shield against enemies and it's your cleanup crew.
Cancer is leading cause for death for children 5 to 14. What is cancer and what does it have to do with the immune system?
Okay. Think about, okay, in kids, things are still changing, but say in an adult. You know how when cells divide, they're starting to get old, so they divide and then, you know, divide again and they keep dividing. If there wasn't a way to slow down that division, all of my organs would get so big they wouldn't fit in my body anymore. So cells are designed to live a certain time and then die off. And so they have a very specific lifespan. Well, cancer cells are cells that have lost the ability to know when to die. They've kind of become immortal, but unfortunately not like a superhero immortal. And so because they're immortal, they just keep going and keep going and keep going. And that's why a cancer cell goes from being, you know, cancer becomes this big and then this big and then this big and then this big, and it keeps on going. And that's part of why it causes trouble because it just takes up too much space, depending on the cancer. Now, the immune system's job and how immune system and cancers are connected, obviously, we have damage to our cells every day, and we can talk about what can cause that. And as the cells get damaged, your immune system, part of your immune system's job is to go and like fix those cells and get them out of the way. Well, if it doesn't do that, the cancer cells just keep going. So that's why the immune system is important when it comes to cancer.
The immune system is so amazing.
Amazing.
Amazing. Wow. It's like cancer is a supervillain. What kinds of cancer are there?
Well, there's two broad categories. There's blood cell cancers. So, you know, all of your blood cells that go through your blood vessels, there's different kinds of cells in there. Even though all the blood looks the same, there's different kinds of cells in there. So there's different kinds of cancers for those different kinds of blood cells. And then there's what we call solid tumors, meaning cancers that grow in solid organs like, you know, bones and muscles and kidneys and stuff like that. Those are the two broad categories.
So more and more kids in my class are getting cancer. More kids in the world are getting cancer. Why are kids getting sicker and kids sicker?
You know, yeah, it's not just kids. That's the problem. Lots of us are getting sicker. There's a lot of things going on there. And with kids, I have a feeling, well, with everybody probably, there's a couple different things going on. Part of it is we're just exposed to more things in our environment that cause damage. So things in our environment that cause damage would be pesticides. You know, some of the chemicals that you may know you should stay away from. So like pesticides that they put on plants to kill off weeds, those are not very healthy. And if you inhale too many of those and you get exposed to them, they can contribute to it. Sunlight. Now, sunlight is good for you a little bit, but if you're out too much and you get sunburned all the time, that can actually cause damage to your cells too. I mean, you get sunburned and the skin peels off. Obviously, it damaged the cells, right? And there's all that kind of exposure. And believe it or not, oh, and I hate to say this to kids because you probably play loud music. Loud music and how it changes the vibrations, that's actually bad for you too, because it can cause more damage. Now, the other thing is not just where we live and how we live, but the other thing that's important is how we eat. And you guys have probably never thought about it this way, but food is more than just something that should taste good. I mean, food should taste good. I like to eat. I like to cook.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, but food is also information for our cells. Okay, so the cells, it's fuel. It gives them something to work with, and it tells them what to do. So if you're eating food that's not very healthy, and it's going to give your cells the wrong information, then the cells can't do what they're supposed to do. And I think, unfortunately, especially in our culture, there's a lot of that, and both in kids and adults. And that's why more and more of us have these chronic illnesses, because we just don't give ourselves the right information.
What is the symptoms of cancers should parents look out for?
Well, it kind of depends on the actual cancer that we're talking about. In kids, there's a couple of fairly common cancers. Most common probably are either blood tumors. One word for that would be leukemia. There's a couple different kinds of leukemias. And when you develop one of those, you get really tired. Now, I'm not just talking you had a busy day and you fall asleep early that night. I'm talking, and I'm not just talking, okay, your mom tries to wake you up in the morning and you want to sleep another little bit. I'm not talking that. I'm talking you need to lie down all the time. That kind, like you start to do something and you're really fatigued. That's what leukemia will make you feel like. So, and also some weird fevers. Like, I don't know if you've ever had colds and flus, but you know how sometimes your temperature goes up. Well, if that only happens once in a while, that's okay. But if you're tired and you're getting those kind of fevers all the time, then you need to be a little more concerned. And there's some blood tests that they can run to see what's going on. Now, if you've got, say, a bone or a muscle tumor, which are also kind of common, you'll actually get pain in your legs. Like, say you're getting a bone tumor in your leg or a muscle tumor in your leg. You'll get a lot of pain. And like every time you try to walk on it, it'll hurt. And I know sometimes kids, as they're growing, especially if they're growing really fast, you'll get what we refer to as growing pains. And I don't know if that's happened to any of you guys, but if you grow an inch over the summer and you just sort of be a little more achy than usual. No, but I'm talking like it really hurts and you can put your finger on where it hurts. And then eventually, especially if it's a muscle tumor, you'll actually see a swelling there in the leg.
That's horrible.
Horrible. Horrible.
So, Dr. Warner, that is really scary. How can we optimize our health and immune system to keep the supervillains out of our body?
So, yes, it does sound scary right at first. And you're right. As soon as a doctor says the word cancer to a patient, they don't hear anything else. But it's actually really pretty simple to live a life that helps keep you from getting cancer. Okay, so a couple of things. Eating healthy. That is actually probably the simplest thing to do. Because again, if you give your body the right information, it'll do the right job. So I imagine your mom probably talks to you about eating your vegetables, right?
Yes.
Hey, do any of you guys cook?
Yeah,
We
I
have
cook-
our
I
mom
cook
cook. He does.
You guys don't cook?
a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, in
For
the
like
morning.
breakfast
Breakfast.
and dinner.
And doesn't your grandma help cook with your mom sometimes?
A
Yeah,
lot.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, and it's good that you guys are learning to cook. Every guy should know how to cook. Eating lots and lots of vegetables of lots of different colors. Like, they always say eat the rainbow. So every day or two, make sure you've eaten something that's every color of the rainbow. That's actually a pretty easy way to keep track of it. All of those differently colored vegetables have in them chemicals called antioxidants. And the antioxidants run around and make sure that it cleans up some of the damage to the cells so they can't turn into cancer cells. Eating not much sugar. I know I'm saying this to a bunch of kids who probably like cancer and who like sugar and ice cream and hopefully not soda. But a little bit is okay. But if you eat too much sugar, it causes a lot of what's called inflammation, and it makes the cells really not work right. You guys probably eat a lot of greens, right? Like spinach and kale and that kind of thing.
Yes. You make green smoothies, all that.
Excellent, because that's really, really healthy for you. There's chemicals in greens. Like Swiss chard is one of my favorite because there's lots and lots and lots of good stuff that has specifically been shown to be helpful in cancer. I mean, it's healthy for everybody, but especially if you've had cancer or you're at risk for cancer. Now, believe it or not, getting out and exercising and moving around and playing and not, well, okay, you can sit in front of a computer for a little while, like to talk to me, but not all day long. And don't sit there with your device all day long. Get out and move, because the more you move your body, the better it does its job on a lot of different ways, a lot of different levels. I won't bother you with the details. Getting enough sleep. That's super important too, to keep you healthy. You guys are probably young enough that you still do a decent job sleeping, but if you have any friends who have older siblings who are like teenagers, like older teenagers than you, you know how sometimes they tend to stay up all night, like really late, usually on their phone, texting their friends. If you do that a lot and you don't get enough sleep, your body doesn't have time to run around and clean up the damage. And so the sleep is really important. And drinking enough water, believe it or not, that's important too. Because if you don't have enough water and you get dehydrated, the cells don't work right. And so the immune system can't do its job. So it's all that healthy stuff that your mom and your grandmother's been telling you anyway.
So, as you said, like sleep, we try to stay away from blue light because it affects our health as we sleep. Also, I have a question. So, a lot of processed foods these days have artificial ingredients that may cause cancer. If you look on some of the labels, they say it may cause cancer. So also we should probably stay away from all those processed foods.
Absolutely. And those processed foods have too much sugar in them anyway.
Yeah.
The other thing that, if it's possible, and you can't always do this 100% of the time, but you want to stay away from, you want to eat food that is organic whenever you can, because the pesticides that they put on the plants, a lot of those chemicals have actually been shown to be problematic. And there's one chemical in particular, and I just have to point this one out. It's called Roundup. It has a chemical in it called glyphosate. And glyphosate has already been decided by the World Health Organization as far back as like 2015, I think. They've called it a probable carcinogen, meaning best I can tell from the research, it probably causes cancer. Now, unfortunately, It's still allowed in this country. Lots of other countries around the world don't allow it because of the research. They still let it occur here. So I would really avoid eating any foods with pesticides on them if you can.
Yeah, so many foods, all of the corn, barley, wheat, all of those starchy vegetables and everything that are grown on, lots of things that are grown on farms, all have that Roundup, which makes it really hard to avoid.
Yeah.
Kids today are obsessed with sugar. Diabetes is on a rise during this last year in kids. We have heard sugar is bad for the immune system. Why is sugar bad for the immune system and cancer?
Well, it's bad for the immune system because it causes a lot of damage. And so it gets the immune system busy trying to fix all of the damage, and it can't really do its job very well. And you may have heard the term cancer loves sugar. Basically, if you eat a whole lot of sugar, it's very possible that if you have a little cancer cell that your body would normally be able to take care of, it just loves the fact that you're eating a lot of sugar. So it just eats more and more and more. It grows more and more. And, that's a problem both with kids and with, frankly, most Americans, is that they eat too much sugar. And part of it is not entirely our fault. Did you know that humans are designed to want sugar? Our brains are designed to want sugar. So you have to be really careful. When we were evolving, it was hard to find. There just wasn't a lot of it. I mean, there were some berries here and there, but there wasn't a lot of sugar in the world. We were eating mostly, plants that we dug up in the ground, and occasionally maybe we ate an animal, but we didn't really have a lot of sugar, and we didn't get a lot of fat either. And so our brains got wired to really look for sugar and look for fat. Well, that hasn't changed, but our diet has changed, because now everywhere you look, there's sugar. And so if you eat some, your body's going to go, great, thanks, let's have more. So part of it is we're hardwired to want it, and part of it is we're just lazy and eat it. So it's really well documented that if you just eat less of it, you're going to end up wanting less of it.
So we hear a lot about sunlight and vitamin D. Why is nature and sunlight good for the immune system?
So a couple of things. Vitamin D specifically. When the sun hits your skin, there's a chemical reaction that happens in some precursor molecules, some things that are not yet vitamin D, and it turns them into vitamin D. And then vitamin D helps your immune system work better. So being out in the sun some is really important so that you make enough vitamin D. But again, you have to be careful, because if you're in the sun too much, you can actually damage your cells, and it gives the immune system too much to deal with. Now, there's this other really great thing about being out in nature. Have you guys ever heard the term forest bathing?
We like to do bare feet.
Great. So you guys know more than I thought. If you're walking around outside in your bare feet, then that keeps you connected to the energy of the earth. Because did you know that all of us vibrate? Like all of our cells are vibrating and our body's vibrating at a certain frequency.
And that's right.
And we're designed to be vibrating at the same vibration as the earth. But then we get around, unfortunately, things like computers and fluorescent lights and telephones, and they vibrate differently. And so our cells start vibrating like them instead of vibrating like the earth. So if you get out barefoot on the ground, you'll be vibrating more with the earth, and your cells stay more normal. So there's fewer things to clean up. Plus, if you're around trees, preferably trees that stay green all year long, but any tree will work, they literally send chemicals out into the air that calm you down. And they lower your stress hormones, so you're not all like worried about stuff all the time. And if your stress hormones are lower, your immune system works better. So that's why a lot of people feel better when they've been outside.
Yeah, we love to hug trees.
Oh, excellent. Good. I'm glad that you guys are tree huggers.
How does our environment, clean products, and other toxins affect our immune system?
Yeah. There are a lot of chemicals in the world now that humans have created. Lots of them are not very healthy for us. So whatever you're, say, cleaning with, it makes a difference, because although they may do a really good job of cleaning up whatever kind of goo you're trying to get rid of, many of those cleaning products can be really unhealthy and actually cause more damage to cells, plus keep your immune system from working as well as you'd like. So there are places that you guys probably are familiar with, where you can actually go on websites and check to see, are you using chemicals around the house that are helpful. A place that I like to go is an organization, it's a nonprofit organization called the Environmental Working Group. And they have lists of, you know, these are cleaning products, and, you know, these are healthy for you. This is soap and shampoo that you can use that are healthy, that kind of thing. So it's very important.
You are a specialist in herbs. Are there herbs or supplements that can improve the immune system?
Yeah, there are. And there are lots of herbs. Let's talk about herbs first. There are lots of herbs that will help the immune system in general, but let's start with things that have been specifically tested to be helpful in cancer, all right? And the others are important, but let's talk about cancer specifically. The first one that we should probably talk about are medicinal mushrooms. Do you guys like mushrooms?
I do. They're not big fan.
Yeah, I didn't like them when I was young either, but there are, any kind of mushrooms are good, but there are specific wild mushrooms that, like maitakes and shiitakes and reishis, those have very specific chemicals in them that boost the immune system and help kill off cancer cells. In fact, those mushrooms over in Japan and in different countries in Asia, they use extracts from the mushrooms as actual pharmaceutical agents to kill cancer. So if they're good enough to kill a cancer when you already know there is one, shouldn't you just eat them? And then that way, if you're in your system often, the chances of developing a cancer goes way down. Another thing that you could think about is...
Before, I just want to make sure that we're clear. We're not talking about the processed foods, takis. We're talking about the mushrooms.
The mushrooms, yes. Thank you for clarifying that. Now, there's another herb that I really like a lot from China called astragalus. Now, astragalus, if you guys know what asparagus looks like, this looks very much like it. They're kind of related. You don't have the stalks and then the really frilly things at the top.
Yeah.
Astragalus looks just like that. And there are chemicals in astragalus that have been documented to help improve the immune system and specifically both prevent cancers from growing. And a couple of studies have been used to prevent recurrences in people that have already had cancer. And that's one that you wouldn't take as a food. You would actually take it as like a supplement. And then cat's claw is another one. That's an herb that is pretty commonly found. I don't use it quite as much in my practice because it's a little, there's not a lot of it left. It got overused for a while. It's not on the endangered species list or anything, but it almost was for a while. And then echinacea. Have you guys ever used echinacea for like when you have a cold?
No.
Mom ever given you that?
Oh, she never told us the name.
Okay. Echinacea comes from coneflowers. You guys have probably seen them. The flowers, they're blooming right now where I live, and they're kind of tall and they look kind of like a daisy, but they're sort of a pinkish purple. The extract from those roots of that plant are really good for the immune system. And you can use that for anything from colds to cancer. Nettle root. Now, nettle is a plant that you have to be really careful with. It stings you. In fact, it's called stinging nettle. If you brush against it accidentally, it feels like 100 little fire ants have just bitten you. So you have to be real careful when you pick it. But the nettle plant has chemicals in there that have been shown to be helpful against specific tumors as well. Now, there's one herb that I do want to mention sort of as more of a warning, because a lot of people like the idea. There's one herb called St. John's wort. And St. John's wort is often used for depression and when you're feeling really sad all the time. And so one would think, well, okay, I just got diagnosed with cancer. I want to use St. John's wort. Well, St. John's wort messes up your liver too much, and it interferes with some of the usual processes in your liver. So you shouldn't use it when you've got cancer and you're being treated. After you're being treated, feel free. It'll make you feel better.
That's amazing. It was so powerful and so empowering.
One take-home point: parents and kids can start today to prevent/fight cancer and optimize the immune system.
Can I make it kind of a long take-home point?
Sure.
Eat right, get your sleep, get outside, don't spend too much time on your computers and devices.
So simple and so easy.
I thought you said it was going to be long.
Well, I cut it short. I was going to make it longer, but that's basically the point. And what it comes down to is that if you do those things, which you probably know you're supposed to do anyway, because you probably heard it since you were like this big, it helps prevent not just cancer, but lots of illness. It keeps you from getting diabetes. It keeps you from getting high blood pressure. It'll probably keep you from getting depression. I mean, it's just, if you live a healthy life, you have a pretty good chance of not getting sick.
Where can we learn more about you and your work?
Okay, so my business webpage is medicineinbalance.com. I also could be found on Instagram. I do, if you're really interested in a book, I do have that book you mentioned, Boosting Your Immunity for Dummies. I'm on the web.
That was so empowering. I'm going to make sure to follow Dr. Warner on social media. Thank you so much, Dr. Warner.
It has been delightful, guys. I appreciate it.
It's our pleasure.
It's our pleasure.
It's our pleasure.
So let's recap Dr. Warner's key points. We have heard a lot about the immune system during this crazy year. And our immune system is the army of our body, protecting us from things that don't belong. To optimize our immune system, and help us prevent cancer and other chronic conditions, we should eat the rainbow. The rainbow foods are filled with antioxidants that can optimize your immune system. Make sure to eat food that is organic, and those chemicals like glyphosate is a probable carcinogen.
And stay away from sugar, as our brains are evolved to love sugar. Use natural sweet things instead like honey, fruit, maple syrup, or even coconut and sugar or coconut sugar as a sweet treat. And make sure to sleep while you sleep. While you sleep, your body doesn't use more energy, so it has more time to heal your body, make hormones, lower inflammation, and detoxify your body. Vitamin D and the sun is important for the immune system and even helps us calm down. So spend time in nature and remember to go barefoot into the nature and hug some trees. A lot of toxins in our environment. So there's a lot of toxins in our environment. So make sure you replace the toxic item for clean ones. Herbs like mushrooms, a nettle root, and so many can improve the immune system. Don't use St. John's wort, especially if you are treated with cancer. So
Thank you so much, Dr. Warner. We are so honored with your time. We know you are super busy. So we are so honored.
Well, I appreciate your time, guys. I think you're as busy as I am.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Until next time, I'm Zain Ansari.
I'm Abdullah.
And I'm Rod.
Follow my family and I on social media, Holistic Mom and Tea, and look out for my mom's book, The Holistic RX, Your Guide to Healing Chronic Inflammation and Disease, the Pandemic Prescription, and the amazing children's book we wrote together called Adam's Healing Adventure. So check it out on Amazon. Yay! Kids need to learn from other kids. Please download our podcast on iTunes and leave a review so other kids and families can benefit. We need to work together for all of us and to create a healthier future for the planet. Join us next week for another episode of the Holistic Kid Show, where kids are empowering kids. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.